Working from home tips for those new to it. I had a staff of 40 remote, let's call them pretty good software developers, AI crap, let's call it that, because whiz bang. So those 40 employees that worked from home worked under federal HIPAA requirements. The federal law that governs access to healthcare information. Some of those papers you sign every time you go into the doctor's office. Every piece of paper in that doctor's office may be a part of medical records. HIPAA, HIPPA. So part of my job was to coach my workers, to mentor my teammates, get them resources when they need them, peers, peer groups, finding somebody else in the industry that knows some specifics about accounting rules in a state. So these people still do, probably, it's years ago, hasn't changed much, have access to multi-billion-dollar financial records, access to patient information, very restricted, very monitored. So these folks that work from home, in the papers below the papers were security commitments. And in order for you to do this work at home, you had to have a lockable office, reasonably sound resistant. You had to have a lockable file cabinet. You had to have a reasonable computer, an internet connection, and all the other things for an office. So you basically had a home office, a printer supplies to keep up, computer, software licenses on the computer. It might be a corporate computer. It might not be a corporate computer, depending on what you're asked. So if you're asked to work from home and you go home and work from your home computer, you may have an unknown liability because you did not read the fine print. So this was part of my being a manager. This was the peer conversations, the team conversations, team meetings, group meetings. Portions of it every month were committed to HIPAA and privacy concerns. And I would remind people that we, on the systems side, are Big Brother. And we can monitor. Once we, as the company, are inside even your PC, that becomes available to a seasoned technician, a seasoned engineer. And I don't know how much all the fine print says about that access. It's like the apps that scrub your cell phone for everything they can. You load a game, it takes your address book. This is the nuance of applications the platforms are running on. But one of the reasons I coached this and was serious about it and tried to make it relatable is if your child came into your office and saw a piece of paper with a pretty picture on it that was part of some evaluation, there was a business reason for you to have that in your office, and yet lunchtime you slipped out to grab a sandwich from the kitchen and the dog ate it or whatever. But if that information gets out, it will come back to you and your security procedures in your office. This is where the chip's going to fall. Now, as a manager on the other side of this, when I was forced to send employees home to work, we simply closed our offices. So there wasn't much of a choice. And we played with office sharing and office interoperability, and I was a part of that because I had gone through that for decades with other business groups and how to manage workflow. So, how to encourage good business practices at home. So be careful if you're work from home now. I did try to get things like a stipend for homework to cover home office supplies. And what this company did was invented their own office supply store, and you could buy supplies through them. It just got more complicated instead of easier. So beware, you home travelers. Be good.